All right, cool. So here we are, finally, after much difficulties, always some technical difficulties, I have to say. I am updating the site right now. If anyone's on the site, okay. Give me a moment as I update the site. Had a little bit of a hiccup there because apparently when we set this up, we did it the wrong way and didn't use the webcam. We used something else. So hopefully now we are ready to roll. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming to my workshop. I think this will be a good one. For those of you who stuck around, let me just check that everything's working. Okay, great. So if you can, if you're on the live chat, then you'll be able to let me know if you have any questions as you go forward. And let's see. If not, okay, great. So we should have a few people here. Thanks for joining again. All right. So my name's Kevin. I'm going to be going through what I think is one of the most important issues, I should say changes that that is and will be impacting the dental school application process, whether that's dental school for advanced standing programs or just dental school in general. It will also be affecting medical school. It'll be affecting every kind of program, every kind of college degree, if you will, that you can think of. And that is the issue of a personal statement, right? So personal statements are often very commonly used in the United States. And as many of you know, they're often not commonly used in other places around the world, other countries. So, the U.S. has always kind of been a little different in that, a little unique in the sense that it expected candidates who are interested in their programs to do a statement of purpose or a personal statement. But that's obviously now turned on its head in the age of AI, as I'm calling it. How is this going to affect things? And really the important thing is, what should you, as a candidate who's interested in an advanced standing program, what should you plan to do about using it or not using it? And what are the pros and cons of using it? What are the dangers of using it? And so we're going to get into all that in today's chat and today's workshop. And then again, if you're on the YouTube, and if you can, if you're on the YouTube, you can see something called the chat. If you're not on YouTube and you're watching this from the website, you can click, I think, the YouTube icon in the video, and you can get to the chat. And if you have any questions as we go forward, as we go through this workshop, just let me know. Put it in the chat box, and I'll do my best to respond to those and all that good stuff. So let's get into a little bit of this. Let me just do that. Okay, what is this here? So I'm going to share a few slides with you. Okay, there we go. And let's see. Oh yeah, I can do it all. Great. All right. So here it is. Is that right? Okay, great. Bunch of windows everywhere. So there it is. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you guys can't see that. I don't know. Can you see it? Maybe nothing's happening. Try one more time. No. No. I just switch a bunch of things around. Yeah, it's not letting me share for some reason. That's interesting. Let's see if this works. So I've been doing this, as you know, some of you may know who I am. I've been doing this work with IDC for the past 10 years or so. And again, I kind of come to the application side, the application document side of things because, well, it's a passion of mine. One, I enjoy writing. I enjoy that process. I actually enjoy um, the process of kind of, let's see if that's, there we go. So I enjoy the process of helping candidates craft their documents, especially, and put together sort of a theme of documents that go together, that pair well with each other. Why do I enjoy that? I mean, I'm not going to say it, it's the happiest thing in the world. I think for all of us, whether you're actually, what's funny about it is, I used to work at a university. I used to review a lot of these applications. And so whether you're the applicant or whether you're the person reviewing applications, it's not actually fun for either side, right? So it's not always fun to apply, to go through this process of writing documents, all that stuff. It's a lot of work, right? But you would think that at least the other people who are reading these documents, your documents, would be having fun, right? Actually, no. It's quite a laborious task for them. And actually, if you think about it, it's sort of like dead weight on their already busy schedule. They're already busy. Often those folks are administrators, meaning they're like staff members that have tons of stuff to do, that are kind of preparing for the next year's program, or managing this year's program. They could be department heads. They could be, usually as a program director, so someone who's the head of the program for the year. And all these people are also professors a lot of times. Well, not all of them, but either they're staff members or they're professors. And so they're teaching classes, doing research, and also throw it in, reviewing the next year's applicants and their applications. So not fun for them. They don't usually enjoy this. There's a few that probably do, but most of the time it's a lot of work for them. Now, that was my part of my old job, not for dental school, but just in general at a university. And so I did read lots, I would say thousands of these applications, and it wasn't the most fun thing. After a while, at the beginning it was fun, but after a while it was not as much. So now, why do I enjoy doing this work now and helping candidates now? It's because actually I get to see the following happen. When we work with a candidate, we take them in. A lot of times they've applied 1 or 2 cycles and haven't really gotten anywhere. And so when we kind of work with them, often when I work with them, I work to kind of extract their story. That's what myself and the editors do. Extract their story, help figure out what the most interesting parts of their story are, rewrite, kind of write an outline for the candidate, and then we'll take their kind of draft and work it into a great SOP. And so that's the part that I enjoy, and especially when I get to hear that they got in. Especially, that's the fun part, is that candidate who didn't get many interviews one year worked with me, and sometimes I'll get 5 or 6 interviews, and then we'll get an acceptance. And that's exciting. That's the stuff that I look forward to and enjoy. So that's why I do this kind of work. Now, I've been doing this, like I say, for 10 years. Had an experience in that world. I did a lot of writing. I've done a lot of writing in terms of applications for candidates and with candidates and all that kind of stuff. So I've seen a lot. What I haven't seen, though, is the AI world that's dawned upon us. There's a Marvel movie, I want to say, what was it? 2016 or something, 15 or 16, that was called The Age of Ultron, right? Which was about a big AI escaping out of its computer box and getting into the body of a robot and causing havoc, right? And so that's kind of why I named the title The Age of AI. This is the age of AI, where it has come down upon us, good or bad. I actually personally have a lot of concerns about AI. I'm on the range of where I sit up with AI. I've embraced it in my kind of day-to-day level quite a bit. I'm using it quite heavily. In one of our companies, we do a lot of software. So I've been using the coding aspect of that quite a bit these days. And I will say it's incredibly intuitive and incredibly, it's shock until you code with it. It's hard to know how powerful AI is. Let me put it that way, because if you've coded over the years, you know how complicated coding can be and how context is so important. Writing demonstrates to people certainly a level of understanding, but when you actually see it coding, it's kind of creepy. It's really, you can see how smart it is and how it's fully understanding everything you're giving it. Now, I'm not going to get into all the AI stuff. You can go to any podcast and listen to all that. What I want to talk about, though, is how is AI changing the application landscape, and how will it change it, and what should you do about it? Should you be the one that jumps on board and says, "Yeah, let's go for yeehaw, let's take a ride on this AI train," or should you be skeptical? Now, I'm not going to. I'll go to the next slide. Let me jump back in a second. I'm not going to pretend that I don't have an opinion on this, and I'm just completely unbiased. I do have an opinion on this, and I will tell you right now what it is, which is I would be personally very skeptical of using it as a candidate until I know more, until I let this thing play out a little bit. Now, of course, we help people with their applications, so you have to say, well, is Kevin just saying this because he doesn't want me to bypass him and just go directly and use AI? Well, yeah, you could do that. I don't really care. A lot of people do that anyway. A lot of people don't use our services, so I'm not really that worried about it. We don't even have, to be honest, capacity for everyone to use our editing services every year. We only can take so many candidates. That said, that's not even really, that's just one part of IDC. It's not even a really big part, but we do it because we want to help people get those interviews. That's why we actually do that. And the interviews are hard to get, as you know, very competitive. So yeah, that's kind of there's my grain of salt. Take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Feel free to. That said, the reason that I'm hesitant about AI and utilizing AI as a candidate is because I don't think we know yet what the ramifications are of everyone having access to the same advantage, right? So when you think about applications, let's say there's 100 applicants that submit into a program. There's going to be some candidates that automatically have an unfair advantage. And then there's going to be, so we'll call them like the cream of the crop candidates. And then there's going to be the average, which is sort of, if you look at a bell curve, you'll see the average, and most of the candidates sit under that middle area of the bell curve, right? And then you're going to have the ones on the other side that are like the least, the lower end. I want to say lower end, but they're the ones that are struggling. They have some problems with their profiles, right? So you have the cream of the crop, the average, and then the ones on the bottom, right? Now, the ones who are the cream of the crop, they usually have an unfair advantage. They have something in their profile or aspects of their profile that they have that are looked more favorably than the average, and certainly more than the folks on the bottom. What are some examples of that? For instance, let's say someone has a math. So let's say that's an unfair. Let's say they come from a country. If we're thinking about the advanced aim program, let's say they come from a country that is well known for their dental education. Let's say, just throw it out there. I don't actually have many candidates from Japan, so I can kind of use this as a good example. I can think of like one or two in the 10 years I've worked with candidates. I think of maybe two candidates I've worked with who are from Japan. They don't really need to come to the U.S. because they already have, a great economy and a great dental, landscape and all that. They're quite prominent, and they actually make a lot of the premium dental tools. If you come from Japan, and technology and all that stuff. So they're really. Let's say you have a candidate from Japan, right? Even if they have, and I'm just kind of giving you, this is not official, this is not the official rules, but I'm just giving you a feel for it. If you have a candidate from Japan, you have a candidate from another country where there's a lot of candidates coming, let's say, or more, though that candidate from Japan stands out. It's an unfair advantage. They didn't do anything to deserve it. They just happened to get lucky and were born into Japan and then want to come to the US. And by coming from Japan, they have that kind of, there's a bit of prestige around it because they came from a Japanese dental school, which are notoriously very good, right? So that would be called an unfair advantage. Now, the good news is there's so few candidates from Japan. I'm not trying to scare you. There's really not any reason for you all to worry about candidates from Japan, because I don't see that many. There's probably a teeny handful of them. But I'm just using that as an example to show what an unfair advantage is. Now, if everybody has the same unfair advantage, let's say 2024, 95% of candidates are from Japan, right? Like, it's a fluke. It's a strange occurrence. And suddenly, out of nowhere, everybody wants to leave Japan and come to the US. Now, 95% of the candidates are from Japan. Well, what's going to happen to that advantage about being a candidate from Japan? There's no advantage anymore. Everyone has the same advantage. Therefore, it is no longer an advantage. And that's the problem. That's sort of what I see with AI. When everybody has the advantage of AI to help them write their SOP, it's no longer an advantage. I hate to say it, but if everyone's using it, it becomes actually maybe a bit of a detriment. It turns from an advantage to possibly a liability. And so that's kind of the overall message of this talk is, here's some things to consider so that you will actually be able to stand out still in the age of AI, when everyone is running for the AI hills. Everyone's going, let's do it. Let's use this thing. I would be careful. If I were interested in standing out, I would be careful. And I'll get into that a little later. First, I do want to kind of mention a couple things. We do offer something here at IDC called the All-In program. It's called Go All In with IDC. And this is a program that we offer to a handful of candidates. We have kind of a limit. We only take as many as we can actually work with. But it is a cool program. We take a number of candidates every year, again, a handful. We have a great success rate with people getting in. As long as folks do the work, they show up, they schedule meetings with us, they get our guidance. It's a really incredible program. And it basically starts with us working on your documents. We help you craft your SOP. We help you craft your CV, LORs, essay questionnaires, all that, all the way through the application process, where I'm often getting on one-on-one video screens with folks and helping them review their application before they click submit their CAPIT applications or their residency applications even. And so it's a great program. We get in there, we really work, our editors and I work to make absolutely the best possible versions of your SOP, your CV that you can. And then once we get you, that's the goal of that, is to get you some interviews. We often get you interviews, especially if you haven't had many before. And then we work with you very closely. Again, Dr. Alyssa and myself work with you on the bench test. Dr. Alyssa works with you on the bench test and helps you really get your skills honed. And I work with you closely on the interview side of things. And you work with me and my team to kind of practice interviewing. You meet with me a lot. You meet with us a lot. There's really no limit. We just have a kind of like a once a week limit, basically, to meet with us, and that's quite a lot. Most people don't even use that. Anyway, so it's quite a powerful program. We work with you for 2 cycles actually, and often sometimes it takes that. Sometimes we work with somebody, kind of work with them to improve their profile, and by they apply. First year they get a lot of interviews, but they don't actually get in. Second year is when often we see those kind of changes and somebody gets that acceptance. So anyway, I just want to tell you about that program. If you're interested in that, go to internationaldentistcentral.com and look under courses for something called All In. I could show that to you later if you want. But basically, that's one thing. And then the other thing is we also help with, here's the actual URL here. The other thing we do is we help with documents in general. So if you don't want to go all in with us, which is, it's an expensive program. We don't take that many folks for it. But if you are not ready for that, or if you just want help with the documents, then you can check out our editing services. We call that like CAPIT help. So if you go to our website here, internationaldentistcentral.com, look under the menu for like CAPIT help, I believe it is, and you can learn about that, and you can work with one of our editors, and they're fantastic. They really do help you one-on-one improve those documents. Now, why would you do that instead of just using AI, right? So easy. Why do I have to go and work with IDC? I'll just go to ChatGPT. I can have my SOP written in like 10 seconds. Well, let's go through the benefits first of why AI is a benefit for candidates, right? And there are some genuine solid benefits here, right? You have this. Now, I even created this. Like, this is to show you that I'm not scared of, it's not like I'm like, oh my gosh, AI is so terrible, run away. I actually think it's a very powerful, incredible tool. It's going to improve society, at least for a while, before it starts to decide to maybe turn on us and put us in cages. I don't know. But before that bad thing maybe happens or doesn't happen, it's going to be incredible for us. It's doing incredible things for us. It's going to solve medical problems and figure stuff out for us that we've never been able to do as humans. It's going to revolutionize medicine, revolutionize industry. It's going to be doing it's going to be taking over factory work and warehouse work and all that stuff. It's already doing that. So it will be incredible. And so I'm a supporter more or less of it for a while. For application documents specifically, what can it do for you? Perfect grammar. Actually, this is one of my favorite things, and we'll kind of get into, this is my number one, is what should you use this for? My sense would be grammar would be great. Use it to improve your grammar. I see no reason why not to. It can also put out and generate beautiful prose, beautiful writing and flow. It has a really nice style. It's arguably very good. And it's getting better and better every day, right? So improving. And then, the benefit for you as a candidate would just, I don't have to struggle with this. I can just, it used to take me weeks and a lot of hassle to write an SOP, a personal statement. Now I can just tell it to write it within, again, 5 seconds. I can pump out my SOP. How great. And I don't have to struggle anymore. This can all be easy. The application process went from hard to easy with AI. Isn't that great? If I ask it to come up with some impressive dental stories, let's say I don't have what I think are very good, much experience in dentistry. Let's say I graduated from dental school in my home country and I show up to the US, but I'm not practiced very much. And maybe my dental school was not, I don't remember very many amazing things. So I can just say, hey, ChatGPT, come up with a really good story for a dental student. Then it might make a really good one, right? And pump it out for me, and I can have it put my name in there and personalize it and all that kind of stuff. And it can craft a nice SOP for me. It's great. So these are some of the positives, right? It can do a lot of cool stuff. And honestly, I didn't put this one in there, but it can give you ideas too. Like, what are some good ideas? For what, give me 5 ideas. Give me 5 good dental stories. I'll choose the one that's most interesting. So there's a lot of ways to use it. It's very powerful. And I think people will be doing this, and certainly people are doing this at the moment. So you wouldn't be alone if you jumped into this. So that's my kind of the pros of it. I want, again, I think in general it is a positive for society, and we have a lot to gain from it. What are those? So why shouldn't I use AI to write my SOP? What's the problem? Seems like a no-brainer, right? It's there for me. It's easy. It's going to make things easy. All that kind of stuff. So I would say let's kind of get into some of what I would call the dangers of AI for your SOP, for your application documents in general. This actually extends to like a personal essay questionnaire that schools will often ask on top of your SOP. It can also apply to the CV as well. I mean, you have to be kind of careful. So we'll kind of get into what that looks like. So it went from, a sweet, nice AI. You can see here, this is a nice, friendly AI writing working hard for you, writing your application documents for you in 10 seconds or less. Here's the danger side. Here we have the Terminator, kind of same guy, but he's a little more nefarious, right? So the first thing is that AI are trained on something called a large language model. I'm sure you've heard of this. And they're trained on the same to some extent, limited dental stories, but I was actually going to say limited. There's a limitation for how much of anything it can get its hands on, right? So it's scraped the web for years to get these large language models built, and this is before a lot of these companies knew, OpenAI and even Google were doing this. They just, so a lot of the internet was completely open. Reddit, for instance, is a good example. Reddit for a while was completely open, and Google and OpenAI could just go in and scrape all of their discussions in a little while and build up these models. And then Reddit realized, like I think last year, like we're not going to let them do that anymore, and they closed off what's called an API, which basically is like they closed off the gate so that these models could no longer just grab any information. And so they started charging for that. So did Twitter, actually. I don't know about Student Doctor Network. I have SDN here, but there's Student Doctor Network. So it's grabbed blogs, which are usually free to read, SDN, Student Doctor Network, Twitter, or now X, and Reddit, and then, obviously tons of web pages, right? So there's a lot of stuff out there. Now, the problem is, if you actually start to look at it, though, when you look at it, a category, which is sort of like when you look at the category of dentistry, there's more. Now let's look at, again, all the world's information is one big pie. Then we look at dentistry. Maybe it's a small piece of pie. Maybe it's like, 2% or 1% of the entire general knowledge base of humanity. Maybe it's 3%. I don't know. Probably dentistry is kind of small, though. Maybe it's 1 to 2%, I'd say, or less. And so we have dentistry there. And then if you kind of take that pie of just dentistry, which is, again, let's say it's 1% of the general human knowledge, and you cut that into a slice, and you make it a slice of dental school or dental student story or dental student candidate. So now we got to get into, like, what is it? What are stories and experiences that dental students in the past have written in blogs, right? Have written on Student Doctor Network, have written in comments of blogs, have and put on Reddit, and maybe post on Twitter, maybe Facebook. I don't think Facebook has ever let all these AI systems have access to their posts. So Instagram and TikTok and Facebook have always been a little protected. So those models may not have access to Facebook. So let's just look at, so all the Facebook groups you see, maybe those may not be in the models for these AIs. But anything open was, again, blogs, websites, Student Doctor Network, Twitter. So what have dental students written about in terms of their backgrounds, about what it was like, what are some dental experiences they had? And there's going to be a chunk of them. I don't know how much. There could be 500 blog articles about it. There could be less. I'd be surprised if there were that many more than 500 to 1,000. That would kind of surprise me. And in fact, I'd say it's probably less. I just kind of my understanding of this niche. I've been in this niche for a while. How many dental, there's YouTube videos on it, obviously, but I would guess it's 100 to 1,000 is my guess. So pieces of content is what I'm talking about. So there's a limit. So what I'm trying to say is there's a limit to how much it's actually seen and read about dental student experiences or dental experiences written by dental candidates that are applying for programs. There's going to be only so many because there's a small kind of niche, if you will. So what that means is that if you ask an AI to write a story, write me a story about an interesting experience I had at dental school, it might be drawing from a limited number of pieces of content out there that it has in its model. And if 1,000 people ask that same question, there's a very good chance that many people will end up getting the same output, and they won't know that they're getting the same output as a lot of other people. And that's the danger, is that we don't know what the randomness is of this. We don't know how, because again, it's just looking at what has been fed into it. So if there's a big data set on it, on a particular topic, great. But if there's a small one, that could be dangerous. And this is actually true. If you ask it questions about, and you can try this, ask a question about a particular dental research topic that you have an interest in, it will only be able to tell you what is in let's say it's a really niche subset of a super specialty. Let's say it's like, I don't know, something related to tissue generation or tooth generation using CRISPR or something like that. Well, there's only going to be there's a small number of people working on that project, and therefore AI knows just a little bit about it. AI basically has combed through every research paper on it, maybe, and it can tell you what those, let's say there's 50 papers on that. Well, that's the limit to that knowledge. And maybe those papers are secondary research papers. They're kind of using each other's research. So yeah, you never know. It basically limits the ability for AI to be as useful. And actually what they've said is at that point, when you're dealing with like a very small research topic, a researcher is going to have way more knowledge than a ChatGPT will about that topic, because that person researching has seen and experienced more than the AI. So anyway, that's just kind of a little bit of examples on this. Now, what is the result? Yeah, the result is we'll generate similar outlines or similar SOPs. So if you say, give me an outline on da-da-da, it may pump out a lot of similar outlines for SOPs, or a lot of SOPs themselves that are very similar to each other. And that's not ideal for, again, the topic of this workshop is standing out. It's not going to help you stand out in theory. The next thing I want to talk about is that AI has a certain voice that, at least right now it does, that's fairly easy to detect, especially for a native speaker of a language. Let's say if you have AI write you an SOP in English, and then you give it to a native English speaker, I don't know what the numbers are on that, but it's often not as hard as you think to actually see, okay, this seems like it was, you can make a guess. This seems a little AI-like, There's certain clues too. Let's say it happens to know more about a topic than you think the candidate should know about that topic. Maybe it's some research, some dental research, or it's a treatment, and it's kind of laying out the exact steps for a treatment that almost seem like they're from the textbook. How is it? Wow, this candidate did everything exactly right, according to the textbook. Well, these are things that can make a reader who is a little savvy and who's also happens to be skeptical and suspicious to begin with. It can make them a little, again, I'd say they could question whether this was written by an AI or not very easily. And maybe they might jump to that conclusion quickly. So that voice is, the voice, what I mean by that voice is that it's written in a way that doesn't kind of compute for the reader, right? So one example was, there was a podcast I listened to where a student of history submitted a paper on a historical event. And when the professor read it, this student was not they were not a graduate student. They were just a bachelor student, basically undergrad at a college. And the professor just read this and thought, this is way too good. This analysis of this historical event is so on point. It's so perfect. This analysis is absolutely hitting every checkbox that I would expect, that I would expect a historian of a 30-year career to say. They have everything perfectly laid out. It's almost Wikipedia-like. It's so perfect. This cannot be this person's essay, because this student does not know this information. I didn't tell them this. Yes, they possibly could have spent hours researching all this and possibly could have come up with to the same conclusions on their own that many historians did, but I don't buy it. And so that's the kind of stuff that I think you have to be careful of. Is it too good? Is it too perfect? Is it too impressive? Is your writing too smooth? And is it too, I guess I don't want to say beautifully written, but is it too kind of like clean, corporate-y, right? There's a kind of a corporate voice that it has a lot of times. Now you can overcome that with prompts and say, make it edgy and stuff, but that can also lead to weirdness that you may not even want, and unprofessionalism. So it's interesting. It's a fine balance. So, you got to be careful. Now, on that note, AI is not you, right? It does not have your memories. It does not have your experiences. It has the experiences written down by other people in blogs and discussions on Reddit and other places, and comments, Student Doctor Network. Yes, those are in there, but it doesn't have your actual direct experiences. So you can't just plug it in. Now, at least in 2023 or 24, you can't plug this chip into your brain and say, okay, scan through all my memories, find the most interesting 3 stories and make it into a beautiful SOP for me. Wouldn't that be nice? Thankfully we're not there yet. We have at least another 10 or 20 years before that comes. So right now you have to actually just hope that someone else's stories that it read online matches yours. But the truth is, it's not you. AI is not you, and it can't pull real stories out of you. You are a real person with real experiences who went to a real dental school and who's applying for a real dental school. You have real experience with the patients, fears, hopes, dreams, etc., passions. You have real emotions, and AI doesn't feel. Arguably, doesn't. We can say for sure it doesn't feel what you feel. We don't know if it feels anything, but it certainly doesn't feel what you feel. So let's put it that way. It can mimic feelings, because if someone writes a beautiful essay and puts it online as a blog, it can pick up on those and make something more emotional sounding. But it's not, as far as we know, it's not feeling those things. The statements of purpose are very interesting because their purpose is to convey to the reader, and this is very important. I'll just kind of make this point. The point is that they convey to the reader a feeling, and that feeling is what they make the decision to say, yes, I want to invite them or not. I'll say this, I've said this many times in workshops, when I'm coaching people in interviews, excuse me. Applications, let's say schools, programs, they decide who to accept in their program based on the feeling of the committee, the selection committee, the people who are making the decision about who to say yes to, the feelings that they have about you. It's yes, it's part of it is quantitative, part of it is like stats, but that's kind of obvious. That's kind of like that's a given. Let's say they've already had their administrative assistants. They take a pile of 1,000 candidates applying, and they have the administrative assistants filter all the stats that they don't like. Okay, you got less than a 3.0, get rid of them. You got multiple attempts on your IMBD, maybe 2 attempts, 3 attempts, whatever they decide. Okay, get rid of those candidates. And then they say anyone with a TOEFL under 100 or 98, get rid of them. So they've done all that work already. They've filtered, and so if you don't get invited to an interview, you're probably, unfortunately, in somewhere you were filtered out. I'm talking about who, once they filter everybody out, then they have a group of people that have similar stats, and they have stats that are acceptable to them. At that point, it's an emotional game. And that's important to realize. It's not about your grades at that point, because your grades are already made the cut. Your experience has already made the cut. And now they're comparing you to other people of similar, or at least similar enough stats. And so at that point, it's all about, now that when they read the SOP, they need to feel something. And if they don't feel anything, they move on. And so that's the danger, is how good is an AI at crafting a fake story or about someone it doesn't know, which is you, and how good is it making it authentic so that the reader actually feels something. Now you can tweak with it, and maybe you're a master of prompts and you can do that. But the question is it really going to work or not? And are you getting what you think you're getting? The problem is you don't know what everybody else is getting. So if there's 100 people using AI and prompting the crap out of it, you don't know whether what you're getting as an output that is generated, you don't know if that is actually unique, or if that's what a lot of other people are getting too. And you might just do a random test on 2 computers and see, oh, okay, well, it's not work, looks different enough. But again, you don't have the sample size of 100 to see how often that's happened. Even if it's happening a little bit more than you think, it could be a little dangerous, right? So that's the danger of some of this stuff, is that you're not sure what it's getting. Now, statements of purpose, again, they work best when they are real and authentic. That's always been my experience. I've interviewed now thousands of candidates for a dental school, not because I was a dental school program administrator, but because I've been in IDC for a long time, and I've done at least over 1,000 interviews. I'm sure it's been a lot. And it's funny, after the first 100, because I do mock interviews. I'm sorry, I should have said I do mock interviews for folks. After the first 100 mock interviews, I became very good at detecting nonsense and lies. So when someone's telling me a story, and I'm just like, don't buy it. Now, you could practice maybe, and you could really, you could overcome some of that if you're really good. But a lot of people, even with that, they stumble. And it's not worth it too, because then you kind of like, you have to keep up that lie. And if you have any other questions that are similar, you remember that you told that lie. and you're kind of creating like a house of cards, and one little poke can pull the whole thing down. So why do I say it's just not worth lying? Just authentic experiences are what really sell you in an SOP. And if you just have to think and just remember, like, if you have something unique about you, everyone does. You just have to do the work to figure out what that is. So that's important. So anyway, that's why I'm skeptical. I won't say don't use this. This is not a talk about, hey, don't use it. Don't even look at it. No, I'm saying no, have the knowledge and have the awareness of the dangers so that you can make a decision about it. Last but not least, detecting AI is super easy, and that's kind of important to know. And it always will be, to be honest. Why do I now? There will be times where it goes up and down, but I've been in technology. I'm a big fan of technology. Again, I'm a coder. I've been in technology long enough to know that there's always this kind of cat and mouse game. Again, you think about hacking. There's hacking, and then there's this response to the hacking, and the security beefs up, and then it kind of dies down. Then they find new holes, and then it goes up and it goes down. So what happens with this? A lot of times there's a cycle. Right now, AI is pretty easy to detect. Actually, in a few years, it could be really there could be new models that are built to avoid detection. Maybe those are out there. I don't know. And those models may be good for a while, but then new AI will come back and figure out how to catch those models, and there will be better detection models, and also be AI against AI. So right now, actually, we do have that. We have AI writing, and then we have AI on the other side detecting. And the AI detecting, I have to say, so far I've been impressed with it. It's pretty decent. So let me give you a real life example of this, because I think it'd be kind of fun for you to see, because it's easy for me to just say all this stuff, but it is one thing. But this is actually kind of cool, because I was doing this earlier today. Let me see if I can get to that one. Oh yeah, here. Good. So if I look at, I'm going to show you a little spreadsheet that I think is interesting. And you don't really need to know too much. It's not like this is that important, but let's do this one here. Okay, so I'm going to just show you a spreadsheet of. So these are candidates that I recently interviewed for our company. And I thought it'd be just fun to kind of see what I'm talking about when I say detection is easy. So let me share my other screen here, my other window, I should say. And you can just see real quick. So I won't get into like who these people are. I don't, I'm actually hiding their names and stuff. But you can see these are different. This is from like a Google form. Let's put it here. These are the questions that we ask candidates to talk about who they are. One of the questions was, what is it about this position that interests you, and why do you want to work with us? So that's a simple question, right? All they have to do is write a simple response to that. Now, I was looking today to see, I wonder how many. I just had, as I was writing this, as I was doing the presentation, I was thinking, like, I wonder how many of our candidates who applied to us recently used AI. So we have here, I think this is from like a few weeks ago, and you can kind of see up here, there's information about what they have written down here. So there's a bunch of different responses here. So what I did is I actually took I literally took two random samples. I didn't even like try to like find the right one, or one that would prove my point. It already proved it immediately. So here's one. I thought I put the date on this. Okay, here's one from, okay, perfect. This is a question. What is about the position that is interesting to you? Why do you want to work with us? Date 7/16/2022. Now remember, this is a year and a half ago almost. And this was before almost anyone, including myself, knew the term ChatGPT. None of us had ever heard this term. This started to kind of come out and be, end of last year, early this 2023. So what I did was, let's see if I can do this in my, I need to get access to this slide. Hold on. So I can copy and paste for you guys, and you can see what I'm talking about. All right, here we go. So I got that. Now, I don't know if you can see what I'm seeing. Let's see if I can just grab the whole window. Let's try that. All right, let's do this. Detect AI, just a simple Google search. Here we go. Okay, so I'll put this up. There we go. So this is called AI content detector. Literally the first thing I typed in Google for AI detection, right? And I copied the question from this slide, the one that you were just looking at. And this is from, again, this is from 2022. So let's just check this randomly, see what happens. It'll ask me to verify, and it says, okay, great, human text. This is human text. So not surprised, right? This is human text. Of course it was. I mean, there was no one using AI, or very few people using AI in any meaningful way a year and a half ago, 2022. So that doesn't surprise me. Now let's go to the next one, and I'll just, sorry for all the kind of back and forth of this. Let me just go here real quick. I'll just kind of make it easy. Now this one, I'll see if I can make it bigger. This one is another one. Now this is dated a few weeks ago, literally like maybe 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Position of a superstar, da, da, da. Question, what is it about the position that interests you? So I'm literally just going to copy and paste this into the detector here. Let's go back to the detector. I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to paste this one in. Again, I just randomly chose this from the spreadsheet, nothing big. And you can just see immediately AI detected. So that's just a quick example of how everyone's using AI, right? So if they're using these are just kind of people on the internet, they're applying to an assistant job. It's not even a big deal. But every single question on my form, they didn't even bother writing it out. It's not even a hard question. All they have to do is write what they really felt. Why do I want this job? Now, this person writes, the position of superstar technical assistant sounds really appealing to me for a couple of reasons. So far, so good. I wouldn't read this and think it's AI back in the day. I would never even expect it. I like to help people first and deal with technical issues. It gives me something satisfying to be able to provide support and help others with their technical challenges. Second, maybe that's something like it's kind of giving me 1, 2, 3, first, second, third. Second, it is important to be with a team that values providing exceptional customer service. I mean, it sounds so great. The problem is it sounds a little too great and having a positive experience. It's exciting to be a part of a company that values customers and their satisfaction. So I think this role suits my interests and skills very well. I mean, again, if I were to read this a year ago before the AI buzz had happened, I probably wouldn't think anything of it. I'd be like, wow, sounds like, she's a great writer or he's a great writer. Sounds like they really are passionate about technical support. Wonderful. I mean, this sounds all good to me. But now when I read it, if I really look at it, I can probably tell it's almost a little too perfect. It's almost too ideal, right? It doesn't feel particularly like there's no real humanness in this, but that said, it probably could still fool me if I didn't have a detector. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it could. So in fact, I don't even think I looked at this a few weeks ago. I just kind of read through these and was like, oh, okay, great. So even I was fooled a few weeks ago. Now, does that mean that schools are going to be fooled too with this program, with the CAPIT? I'm going to guess, and this is a guess, but I'm going to guess no. And the reason I'm going to guess no is because academics are already, so when I say academics, let me just back up. We have to remember that we're applying, let's kind of go here. We are applying to a group of academics, not just a bunch of employers that are too busy with other stuff, and they do a little bit of interfacing with essays. We're applying to a group of professors. Now, if you're a professor in 2023, your world has definitely been affected, because if you do teach a class where people have to submit any kind of paper and they have time to work on it at home, they're not doing it in the middle of like a quiz or a test, then you have already started to see the quality of the responses of your students shoot up. Suddenly they went from terrible writers to incredible writers, especially dentists, right? Dentists are not going into dentistry because they are like Shakespeare. They're not doing it because they are great writers. They might or might not be a great writer, but I wouldn't be surprised if many of them, that's not their strength. They're more tactile, they're more hands-on. So I'm guessing that professors in the dental schools have seen, in the US dental schools especially, have seen a lot of folks using AI. And what does that mean? They're starting to see it in papers. They're starting to see it come back to them. Now they're starting to get upset. Because if you think about it, what I didn't say about that candidate before, actually I did recently test a lot of responses with the applicants that were applying to the job I had. And I tested each one against AI. And I will say that the moment I saw that they were using AI, it soured me. And that's very important. It's kind of important to know. Like it just naturally soured me. And when I saw someone was not using AI, even if they had a couple spelling mistakes, I was more endeared to them. I was like, okay, this person could have used AI, but they chose to write it themselves. And I actually found myself favoring the people that didn't use AI very easily. And more importantly, I found myself kind of bitter and angry at the people that were using AI because I felt like, well, why is this person even bothering? I'm asking them to do a job, to spend time. I'm asking them to do a job for me where they're going to need to spend time and effort and energy and attention. And they're not even bothering in the application process to even write their own words. They just go into AI immediately. It kind of made me a little sour. Again, I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to say everybody's like me, but for me, it kind of was like, I'm less enthusiastic about this person because they kind of cheated. It's kind of like plagiarism. And I kind of wrote down here, AI is basically plagiarism's first cousin. It's like academics already, there's a long-standing tradition of academic professors, deans, etc., having an allergic reaction to plagiarism. They hate plagiarism because plagiarism in academia feels like cheating. And AI is not too distant from that. It's pretty much like a first or second cousin to plagiarism. It's basically kind of like a version of cheating to them, to a lot of professors. In fact, I actually looked at some of the, to some tweets about this to see what were professors saying about AI and their students using AI. I got a really good one from the beginning. This is actually not just about essays in general. It's actually about application essays, which is personal statements. And this one says, a professor on every application essay being written from the same formula. And the professor says, don't write the essay everyone else is writing. Take a chance or you'll get thrown into the garbage. And this is absolutely, if I could put in any quote about to be careful of using AI in your application documents, it's this one from this professor who obviously has to review a bunch of applications. I'm not sure if this is dental, probably not dental. It's probably just a general college application process. But you will be thrown in the garbage. It is literally true. I remember when I did this and I worked at the university and when I had 100 applications, I didn't throw it in the garbage, but I did throw it in the garbage pile, which I called, this is the garbage pile. We did keep them, we didn't literally throw them away, but we did keep them in a stack of like, don't even bother. And that is the garbage pile. And you will get thrown into that pile if you, for lack of a better term, if you piss off the person reading it. And if they can detect that you're writing with AI quite easily, they're going to throw you in the pile. It's not that hard. And it's not likely, it's going to make them mad. This one down below, I generally see nothing but, well, this one's a positive on the idea of AI destroying undergraduates. So this person's happy about it, and that's great. So there you can just see there's different people on this. Some professors like it. Oh, this is a little risque. I'm sorry about that. This one is another one, though, I thought was good. My future AI grading policy, run it through the AI detector, see what the percentage comes up with, subtract that from 100, and that's the student's grade. So a lot of times with these AI detectors, it will give you a score, like a percentage, of kind of like an estimate. So maybe 30, 40, 80% was written by AI. And this is also true, sometimes people will be like, okay, I'll be clever. I'll just have it write it for me, and then I'll change, I'll take the AI generated content and I'll rewrite it kind of as a human. But the problem with that is it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to write a bad version or a worse version of something that's written perfectly for you. It's easier to actually just write it from scratch. I know because I've tried this. So, let's say they run this through an AI detector, and I'm guessing that they're paying for these services now because if they're using it for their own essays in school, they're probably going to use it for applications easily because they're going to see, they're probably already seeing this. Everybody's using it to do their AI. Maybe some schools won't do this. Maybe some schools will be dumb and they'll be like, oh, we'll just hope everyone does it right. But I bet there are many schools that are savvy and they're already starting to use AI detectors for the applications, for the SOPs and CVs and stuff. And so anyway, for this one, you could get a score of, again, you could get like 30% looks like it was written by AI. This woman, as a professor, is going to just take 100 minus 30. Let's see. Subtract that from 100. Yeah, so we could say maybe you get 70, maybe you get less. Who knows, right? So anyway, professors are not happy about this. And academics are not happy about this. So again, you're going to end up with people that are probably very suspicious and very looking out for this for the first time. 'Cause even though this is new, they're still looking out for it. So anyway, we looked at that. Anyways, you think to yourself, but it's so much faster, so much easier. What's the problem? Well, in short, I think when a program assumes or believes that you have used AI to write your SOP, again, they can detect it with an AI detector fairly easily, and they can simply, because they can just copy it out of your SOP. They are not, you're submitting this as a digital SOP, digital copy of your document through the CAPID system, so they can just copy and paste out of CAPID really easily. They don't, it's not on paper. Anyway, what you're communicating when they see AI detected, what you're saying to them is, I'm kind of a low quality candidate. I'm not willing to put the effort in to actually write this myself. I'm not willing to do the hard work. I'm not willing to write my own story. I'm just going to have it generated for me. And this is my opinion, because, and in general, so, I put this in here. I think it can result in kind of a less personal, again, this is a good example. That one I showed you, the response that they wrote. This is a good example. I really, this one. The position of superstar sounds appealing to me. I don't see anything unique about this person in here. So it's kind of an impersonal writing style. It's saying all the right things. It's hitting all the right points, but there's nothing about this person. I don't read about this person in here. I just read lofty ideals in it that, maybe I would find on, a poster in a corporate office. I don't find anything unique about that. So I do think that it creates kind of like an impersonal, perfect, right? It's going to be so perfect, cookie cut document. And that can include stories that other people have too, or kind of styles other people have too. And so what I would say in general, here I am, and guess what? This is AI generated. So again, I love this stuff, but I am also scared of it. If it were me, I would be very worried about writing an SOP because I think it's a bit risky. Now, that's the main thing. I don't like risk, especially when it comes to guiding candidates in terms of their applications, in terms of the advanced aim program or residency program. This is a program that, as you all know, is immensely competitive. And so for me, what do I know? I know they hate plagiarism, so I'm not going to copy someone's SOP, right? I wouldn't think to copy an SOP of somebody else that I thought was really good. I would write my own, right? And I think a lot of you also wouldn't just plagiarize and copy someone else's SOP. So if that's the case, why are we so comfortable with utilizing AI to create basically an SOP that's kind of generated based on 50,000 SOPs that have been written in the past that may or may not relate to us at all. So I think there's a danger there. I think that the schools would not like it if they knew. I think if they detect it, they will disqualify me immediately. There's no question in my mind that if a school ran your SOP through an AI detector, they would very likely disqualify you from that process. And who knows, maybe even put you on a blacklist, because again, once you've done it once, you've kind of done it. In their mind, you've done it. So why should they give you another chance? So there is a big risk. And I guess what I'm trying to say to the community here is, don't, if you're going to do it, if you're going to use AI, be careful, but also know what the ramifications are. There does seem to be a risk there in my mind. And just because you're not hearing about it, and just because everyone's saying, isn't this great? We can just use this to our SOP. Just because you're hearing that right now doesn't mean the times won't change. And you might even get, I think what's going to happen, honestly, to be very honest, is that they're going to get rid of the SOP process in a few years, because I think what these schools are going to start to realize is this is worthless information. Why should we bother including a statement of purpose on the application where we get 1,000 robot generated crap that all sounds the same, with minor tweaks here and there? Like, what is the value to us? We don't learn anything about each candidate because they're hiding behind this AI bot. So what I think they're going to move to is, this is just my estimation, is either some sort of online system or in-person system where maybe what they'll do is when you come to your in-person bench test, they'll sit you down and make you write your own essay questions. Like that actually already happens in some schools. You're going to write prompts that you're not expecting, and you're going to have to write your own answers, and you're going to have to give them real writing with a pencil or a pen. That could be one. Another one could be they have some sort of digital way of doing that where they kind of somehow can watch you in a video camera and you have to like show them that you're doing this right. And there's some sort of computer, you do it on your computer and it can detect that you're not using AI. Or they just get rid of it altogether. Maybe they have a video submission where you kind of have to, like, again, answer prompts. A lot of schools are doing this anyway with a Casper and stuff like that. So maybe they'll just get rid of SOPs altogether and move to more of that system where they can just actually get your real thoughts and your real stories, and you can't just, generate this stuff in out of thin air. So that's my estimation. I think it won't be long before they just see how worthless the SOP component is. But for the time being, you have an opportunity. If you write a really good SOP by yourself, you have an opportunity to really stand out. And again, you can be comforted in the fact that if they run your SOP through an AI detector, it will say it's human. And that, even if it's not perfect, let's say your SOP is, again, grammatically imperfect, or is not just as incredible as an AI written one, it's still going to be preferred, and you're still going to shine over someone who's submitting an AI written generated system, document. So that's my last word on that. Hopefully that helps y'all. If you have any questions, I'll kind of look in the live chat. I don't think there's any questions right now, but I appreciate the time. And if you have any questions, do send me an email. Hold on. And I can give you a little bit of that. I think, yeah. Send me an email at kevin@internationaldataCentral.com or mail@internationaldataCentral.com. And we will look forward to hearing from you. Actually, if you go to our website, I'll just kind of show it here. You can just see, I'll just kind of show you a few things about what we're doing this year. You might be interested. Here we go. So if you go to our website, I think a couple things I mentioned. If you're interested in the All-In program, you can go under courses right here. This is all about the All-In. It kind of explains what it's all about. If you're interested in just like having help with your SOP or your other documents, if you want a real human helping you, our team will not be using AI. Don't worry. We do throw it through like a grammar checker. So that's kind of our final check. But most of our editors are great at grammar anyway. So it's just making like one or two simple changes. It will not be detected for AI. Actually, that's something that we will be adding this year, is we will check our own work to make sure it does not flag for AI, because sometimes we get drafts from our candidates, actually all the time. So, when you work with us, you submit a draft to us and we work to edit that draft, but we need to actually, what we're going to be doing is checking your draft to make sure that's not AI generated, because if it is, what's the point of even editing it at that point? So if you're interested in getting that kind of one-on-one human help, check that out. Oops. And then the last thing will be, if you want to talk and you want to have a chat with us, you can contact us and we'll be happy to help you. Just fill out this form. Also, if you're interested, we do like something called an application review session. And I think this one, if you go down to step 1, you can fill that out, and we will actually tell you where your documents are right now, where they stand, how good we think they are in comparison to others that we've read recently, and we'll give you some feedback. So hopefully that helps you, and let us know. We're happy to help in any way we can. Hope this was helpful to you, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care. Thanks.